Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zack, and today I am driving a 2018 Porsche Cayenne SE Hybrid. Up front is a 3.0 liter supercharged V6, as well as a plug-in hybrid system, and down below is an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, I am super excited to be making this video here today because I haven't driven the Cayenne Hybrid before. Now, this comes from 2018, where plug-in hybrid technology was a lot less common than it is here today. So I'm excited to share with you this kind of rare, kind of quirky version of Porsche's mainstream SUV. But if you'd like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. And if you'd like to see all my videos weeks or sometimes months in advance, you can head on over to my Patreon for only $5 a month. But let's get back to that plug-in hybrid drivetrain. Well, part of that is made up of the supercharged V6, and the other is a plug-in hybrid system. Now, this engine is actually an Audi engine. So if you're familiar with the Audi S4, this is that supercharged 3-liter V6, which is really cool, and the electric motor is just paired behind the engine before the transmission. Altogether, it makes 416 horsepower. That is nothing to thumb your nose at, and you get about 14-ish miles of range. Here in 2025, the car is reading at a full charge about 12 miles of range of full EV driving. Now, that might not sound like a lot, and definitely by today's standards, it isn't, especially with the Range Rover Sport plug-in hybrid we just drove with 55 miles of electric driving range. However, that's still something. You still get some type of hybrid electric driving, and it is going to save you at the pump whether you like it or not. When you've depleted the battery, you get about 22 to 23 miles to the gallon. However, with the battery MPG combined, you're getting well into the 40s. So for that short commute to work, if it's 10 miles or less, you're going to be getting very, very good fuel economy. The fuel economy of a Prius, and yet you're in a luxurious Porsche Cayenne. Like I said, paired to it is that 8-speed automatic. That is unchanged here for the plug-in hybrid as the standard Porsche Cayenne. And last but not least, this is all-wheel drive. Similarly to the engine, this is actually an Audi all-wheel drive system. The Porsche all-wheel drive system had some transfer case issues and whatnot, so this is actually the Audi system that isn't found in other Cayennes. Very, very interesting. So here in sport mode, there is a lag down low. You definitely are missing a little bit of power down low. But once you get into it, you get into it. It is still very, very much a Porsche experience, a very premium SUV experience. And that was kind of my hesitation. I was hoping that the plug-in-ness didn't sort of mute the German howl that this normally has, and I can tell you firsthand, it certainly does not. How does it feel to drive the plug-in hybrid Porsche Cayenne? Well, as you saw earlier, still drives great, still has a bunch of really great offerings, and that's the big benefit of plug-in hybrids, is that they are really the best of both worlds. You get that EV driving, you get that better efficiency, however, you still have the driving dynamics that any ICE car would. Ride quality has been good, and you do sit up high. The owner, Elizabeth, was telling me before I took the car out that she really likes sitting up higher because it has a more commanding feel, and I have to agree with her assessment. You sit up high, you feel important, it has good visibility, good power, and you have that beautiful golden Porsche badge looking back at you while you drive. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior, because there are some very interesting quirks. Well, in front of me, I have a whole onslaught of gauges. Off to the far left, that's our oil temperature and battery voltage. Then we have somewhat of a tachometer, but it's actually a power gauge. So it's telling me when I'm charging, when I'm efficiently driving, as well as when I'm in boost mode. Very odd here. We have our tachometer in the center, very much a staple of Porsches, having a center-mounted tach. To the right, we do get a little screen that's looking at our energy flow. Really love that, the sort of Priusness sneaking in to the Porsche badge. And then we have our coolant temperature and fuel. Something you will notice is that this also does get light green needles. You'll see that throughout the vehicle. That is Porsche's way of saying something is a hybrid. You'll see this light green accenting on things, and you'll see it on the badges around the back as well. That's their little tip of the cap. On the steering wheel on the left, we do have our selector for that gauge cluster screen, as well as some phone options. And off to the right, we have more phone options and another selector. We have paddle shifters around the back. And of course, as I mentioned, that beautiful Porsche badge, front and center. Off to the left, we do have a climate control vent, as well as our key. So it is keyless entry and keyless start, but you have to still turn this fake key. This was a very transitional period for this kind of technology, so you still turn a key. It's just not the key that you take with you. Very, very odd. But down below, we have the power parking brake and headlight switch. Then moving on to the door, we have our memory seats, lock and unlock, power mirrors, and power windows. Moving into the center, another Porsche staple is that clock on board, and even another Porsche staple is that they always match the color of the needles to the gauge cluster needles, which I love that touch. If you option your car with orange needles, your clock will have orange needles. If you option them with blue needles, the clock will have blue needles. I find this absolutely awesome. Down below, we do have our infotainment. This is, of course, dated, however, not as dated as I was really expecting it to be. I think it still works relatively well, and we have a lot of physical buttons. Believe me, we have a lot of physical buttons that we'll talk about here in a second. 2018 being the first time they legally required a backup camera, it does, of course, have one, and I'd say it's pretty clear. I like that a lot. Down below, we have buttons for our tuner, media, navigation, map, car, home, source, phone, things like that. And then we look at the center console, and if you have an aversion to buttons, look away now. Off to the left, we have our climate, temperature, and fan speed. We have where to send it, heated and ventilated seats. In the center is our hazard switch, hill descent control, defrosters, recirculating sync, and AC max. Off to the right, the passenger has their own temperature, their own fan speed, their own location where to send it, and of course their own heated and ventilated seats. We have the shifter in the middle that you can plus minus if you want. And then we have our suspension modes for comfort, sport, and sport plus. And then we have our power modes for sport, e-power, e-charge, and traction control off. I know that's a lot. Take a breath. We're doing okay. We're in a Porsche. It's all good. Then we do have a 12-volt outlet and cup holders. We will do a big friggin' bottle test here in the Porsche Cayenne e-hybrid. And unfortunately, it fails. Pretty much anything European does, but still got tested anyway. Then we do get a center console and the seats. The seats are heated, ventilated, power, and memory. They are really, really nice, actually, and I think they've held up well. Over 158,000 miles. This vehicle is not a spring chicken anymore, and I think it's held up really, really well. The seats are a big sign of that, and I'm happy to see it. However, speaking of seats, we do have another row of seating. So let's go do a backseat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2018 Porsche Cayenne SE Hybrid, and a couple of things to note right off the bat. I fit. If you've ever had the misfortune of sitting in the backseat of the Porsche Macan, Porsche's smaller SUV, you'll know what I'm talking about, because that is extremely, extremely cramped. That is a gulag compared to this. I can stretch out. My knees are not hitting the seat in front of me. Even with my sunglasses on my head, it's not coming close to the ceiling. 5'11", not a small guy. This moonroof also offers a lot more space. I would open it up more, but the sun is directly above, and it would beam me in my pretty blue eyes. So I'm 5'11", not a small guy, and I fit back here very, very well. We do have little storage cubbies in the doors, which is very interesting. Big grab handles. Down here, we do have climate vents, USB-C chargers, as well as a 12-volt outlet, and I do get a little center console with 2 cup holders in it. This is a very, very good experience. I love that it has Porsche embossed on the headrest. That's fine and dandy up front, but I don't know if I've ever seen embossed headrests in a second row. And if I have, nothing comes to mind, so that is definitely very special. Again, like the front, it makes you feel special. It also makes you feel special back here, and that's not always found in SUVs. Speaking of back here, let's hop into the very back. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, around the back of the Cayenne e-hybrid, we do have a button here on the key fob for the power lift gate. Absolutely love to see that, very smooth going up. And we do have tons of space. Like the back seat, you still have plenty of space back here. We do have a 12-volt power outlet. Love to see that. Some cubbies and whatnot. You can lift this up down here. And that, my friends, is what we call a battery. I don't know if I've ever just discovered a battery underneath the floor of the back seat, but that makes sense. So the battery lives down there. Now you know, and now I know, which I was not expecting that. So very, very interesting. Overall, lovely cargo space out of the Porsche Cayenne. And we also have, of course, our tailgate button. Very smooth from the Porsche company. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and it is a Cayenne. I have always loved the look of the Cayenne. I don't think they've ever made a bad generation, at least visually, of the Cayenne. I love the first gens. I love these gens. I love the new electric Cayenne that literally just debuted a few days before making this video. I love it all. You know, I think these are pretty handsome vehicles, and I don't know if Porsche's ever really made an ugly vehicle. So I guess that's something special. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving the e-hybrid Porsche Cayenne? Well, of course, this is always a good day. If you look forward and you see a little Porsche crest in front of you, it is a good day above ground. So I'm reeling in that quite a bit. But let's talk about the actual experience. Well, the actual experience is actually good too. It has been such a joy to drive. It works really well. It still has that Porsche-ness, at least what I would expect out of the Cayenne. Is this my track day vehicle I want to take out? No, probably not. I would much rather look through Porsche's other catalog of vehicles in order to pick something like that, like a Cayman, which I've autocrossed and had the absolute time of my life. This isn't really for that. This is for someone who has a Cayman for the weekends or the 911 for the weekends, and this is the daily driver. And I think it accomplishes that very, very well while still feeling special. The green needles on the gauge cluster make me feel special. Pressing the e-power and e-charge buttons make me feel special, and of course that Porsche badge makes me feel special. This isn't something mundane. This isn't what your English teacher drove to school or your church pastor drives to work. And if your pastor does drive one of these, he probably has his hands in the offering container a little bit too much. I honestly can't find many faults with this. And I would love to say, oh, these are great, but they're unreliable, but this has 158,000 miles on it. In terms of a car like this, I'd say that's reliable. I'd say that that's pretty good. It kind of does everything really, really well. I wish I could wag a finger at it and say, oh, it's great, but I won't own one because of this. Oh, it's lovely, but I won't own one because of this. And right now, with way fewer miles, these are going for high 20s, low 30s. Man, if you're looking at a new Camry or this, I don't know. This would turn heads a little bit more and give you a lot more driving feel, a lot better driving feel. At least in my own opinion. It's very rare that I drive a car with tons of upsides and very little downside, but I think this might be one of them here today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Elizabeth for letting me borrow her Porsche Cayenne e-hybrid here today, and also huge thank you to Tristan for setting up the review time and schedule. They have been absolutely wonderful to work with. I've reviewed a ton of Tristan's vehicles. It was Elizabeth's time to share her vehicle, and I think it might be one of my favorites out of their fleet, but don't tell Tristan I said that. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.